Just using those things to get as much damage in as possible, making sure that your opponents are, softening them up as you're starting to get into those later circles. You definitely want to make sure that your opponents are all one-shot if you can, so that you can just clean them up with a nice pump.
So if I'm not mistaken, Zextro has been eliminated at some point here. So Zayt and Saf, I think ranked number 2 right now, are looking at this as a juicy game. If they can clean up some eliminations, get a very high place, and they will overthrow their brothers from the US, and this would be a fantastic and breakthrough game for them. Now the zone has moved towards the southeast side. The hill position we talked about before are going to be very important, especially with the zone moving that direction. You can see Izza and Camo, controller gang over here, who have really put some fear into a lot of players' eyes with how they've been able to put out some extremely high elimination numbers. Looking to still fight here to break through into that top 25.
Absolutely, 13 eliminations in game 1. And they have center circle here. They're just kind of positioned and gatekeeping, making sure that they can position themselves as good as possible for that end game.
You see Boyer really realizing there's a lot of risk to go is being used. He's trying to maintain the high. A little bit further, Izza and Camo now 3 eliminations. He has a spot into Boyer and he gets the connection on top of that. So it's a lot of damage to be done, but he's being shot from above and now he's down to 32 HP, trying to escape this one, trying to edit his way through. He's got some small shields to pop if he does need it, or if he has time, I guess more importantly, to pick it up. You can see Skix very low HP and Crippa with 3 limbs. He does have the backup of his teammates. He has the rocket launcher as well. Actually, they both have one, and that's a lot of damage being done, trying to shoot down a couple of players, but they're not lucky this time.
Blood and Zippin just holding the high ground there. Kenzo actually ends up getting a care package.
Oh, the trap! The trap they put down there, waiting for enemies to drop on top, and works out. Crippa is going to help get the elimination onto that one. Scimitars has fallen, unfortunately, and what a play. What a read into this one. Using the rocket launcher to drop people down, and another nice through. That's now 5 for them as they're looking to clean this game up. Look at that. Little trap set up perfectly where Boyer's more than happy to sit.
That was absolutely beautiful. They had the high ground, they knocked them down, they put down the trap, and they cleaned them both up.
These rocket launchers, look at what they have in their inventory, even a chug jug on
Two
top
launch
of things.
pads, an RPG, 2 RPGs, each one of them with their own.
This could be the game that they're able to pull off. This could be the first time we've seen.
This is Crippa and Boyer's game if they can pull it off.
And yeah, they've not been able to get a victory out so far, but this might be theirs. This might be theirs for the taking. Saf going to take down Little J. Mitro going to take down Hubik. Magan just trying to fight his way back through as we have the Storm now moving towards the northern side. You can see Max Caliber off to the completely south side, just kind of being tagged up here. There we go. Jesse's still in there. Jordan, I don't think he's alive anymore as he's just trying to transition. Actually, Jordan is there. Kind of being tagged up. Duels from Australia still fighting. Smeef going to be on ultimate high ground at the moment, but he's going to have to transition very far. Zayt has been dropped down at the moment. Saf is trying to fight his way through, and he has 2 players to get potentially pick up here, looking for the eliminations. Jordan's going to be pressured, and Jordan's going to be falling, and that's going to be Jesse as well. The Australians have been knocked out. Jules cleaning up 2 quick eliminations.
Boyer here fighting for the high ground, getting his RPG, ready to knock it down.
It's so difficult to play from the higher positions. It's so difficult to deal with the explosives coming through. And what a shot out of Saf, able to return on. I'm not sure if he actually got dropped in the end anyways from the Storm. You can see Seth now as well. You can see towards the left-hand side, Madsen able to get even further. Camo still alive and fighting. Sure takes down Jules. Saf still alive, gets the elimination onto Villix. And these rocket launchers are going to be so important here as the zone starts to close. It moves yet again here, this time towards the western side of Paradise Palms. And Milan and Smeef, who won last game, are still here fighting.
Milan actually gets knocked down off of high ground by Crippa. Crippa ends up taking the high ground. It's now Crippa and Boyer on the high ground.
He's trying to block him. Oh!
And he gets knocked down!
The stairs comes in, but Milan got the redeploy to stay alive here. So that a fantastic play out of Boyer. It was great to see. It doesn't work on the end for him, but nonetheless, really showing his expertise here, especially in these later stages. 10 players left to go here, Speedy.
They were able to secure the high ground off of that, just not get the elimination. It's the best case scenario.
I mean, they still win, right? They still win because they still maintain high ground.
Have dominance here from the high ground, raining rockets in.
And the Rockets are doing some serious work. It's disrupting fights. The elimination comes through. That's now going to be 8 for them. Boyer and Crippa able to get up to 9, I think, potentially, and maybe a 10th as well. They are cleaning house here, Boyer and Crippa.
Mitro and Tux with the launch pad. Mitro, can he take the high ground?
No, he's trying to, and it looks like he has been able to. He's got a player above him. It's going to be Seth, though, and Madsen's going to be here to join his teammate to take this high ground away. But for how long? Because the RPGs are still in play. They get knocked down another time. You can see Seth and Madsen now up to 3 eliminations. But Boyer and Crippa, the game's been all about them. 9 elims between the 2, but look at this. Now they get a 10th as well mixed into this. Tux is going to fall, unfortunately, to the Storm, and these RPGs are going to be even more important here.
Boyer has 0 mats. He has to rely on that RPG. He needs to knock down these builds.
Mitro still alive from the very, very low ground. And Kripa and Boyer, who've been at the high ground for such a long time, gonna be knocked down, and they might actually get a knock yet again. Here's Seth, gonna be able to save himself with his own catch of the building. But with 5 players left to go, you can see the chaos here from all these players. Mitro gonna take down Boyer, so that's gonna actually be a little bit of a pain here for Kripa, as now Mitro looking to push in. He's looking for some limbs, has 4 total across the team. A little bit now of a slower pace.
On the low ground, Kripa and Mitro.
He's got one thing to build with. He's trying to knock Kripa down, and Kripa's saying no, not today. You can see towards the back, Boyer trying to claw his way back in. That's the 5th elimination, able to help heal Mitro up a little bit further, up to 153 HP. Madsen and Seth, though, in the meantime, still have the high ground. The only 2 duos remaining, or duos that have both players up alive and running. Kripa's going to fall to low ground, trying to take down Mitro. Mitro will fall. Kripa, though, still inside the storm, taking a lot of damage.
Low ground battle. Now, it's a 2v1.
Yeah, 2v1. You shouldn't be losing this if you're LDLC. If somehow Kripa can pull this back, I'd be amazed. But he does get shot from the high side. And LDLC set the match and will take the Victory Royale. Speedy, even though they took the Victory Royale, though, Kripa and Boyer, they had an insane kit coming into that late game. They got so many eliminations on the board, just like we saw out of Camo and Issa. And they put up some fantastic numbers.
They had the kit to win it all, but they ran out of mats, unfortunately. They maintained the high ground a little bit too long.
Yeah, they did a little bit too long there, and it did kind of cost them because they ran out of materials towards the end. But what a game as well, and considering we did have Vinny drop early on, Zextro, we didn't see exactly what time he went out, but there was no way he was in the top 20 at least. No way top 15. This is going to be a major shakeup in the standings.
Oh, it certainly is, gentlemen. I mean, it gets more and more interesting after every single game that we have. The shot that was heard around the world as well onto Vinny at the start of that game. But congratulations to Seth and Madsen. Taking home the Victory Royale, but so many different aspects to talk about from that game. Congratulations to Seth and Madsen picking up the Victory Royale, but Boyer and Kripa, I mean, 9 eliminations between them, big points on the board, 2nd place as well for them. A huge game at this time in the tournament. That's got to be good for them. And they were already like top 5, if I'm not mistaken, so they actually going to jump up into even a higher position. Saf and Zayt, I think, got eliminated. I want to say around like the 15th position, because we did see Zayt go down and Saf was still alive fighting. But honestly, I don't know how these standings are going to work out for them. It's going to be interesting to watch, Speedy. I mean, 2 players who keep making it towards that end game as well, Demo and Bizzle, but they can't quite get towards those final battles in those end zones. What do you think's not quite clicking for those guys at the moment?
Unfortunately, I'm not quite able to make that assessment, just because
that's fair.
You know, they do consistently make it to end game. But once those moving circles start to happen, they kind of get lost in the sauce, and we don't really ever see them, you know, in the kill or the elimination feed or in, you know, a high ground position. They're just kind of down there in the mess.
Can I jump in on that really quickly, the high ground position? Because when we did see them performing well yesterday was when they were able to transition easily from the low ground to the high ground with like a rift to go. They had the read on the timing of when to get up there. This time you saw Mitro try to take high ground, but the LDLC boys, they took it from him immediately, built right on top of him to lock him in, and then they played that to the very end for the victory.
Okay, guys, well, I think it's time to hear from our winners of that last game. Adam's with them down on the floor right now.
I certainly am, Mark. Très bien, monsieur. C'est magnifique. See, my French is coming in. It's coming to action now. Guys, Seth and Madsen, our game 10 winners. Guys, I've got to ask you, what was it like to play in that? It looked like chaos. How did it feel?
Well, we were quite lucky because we got 2 rifts when we killed the TSM guys. So we are quite thankful for them. So we used them well, and we took our pad that we put on the floor at the beginning, so it made us take the high ground, and we won.
Are you looking at the leaderboard now a lot as well? Obviously, points are changing. Vinny and Zextro this morning were leaders, and things are changing a lot now. Are you keeping like a tally of what's happening every game?
Well, just playing our game, and we're looking at the leaderboard every time. But we have still 4 more games
to Seth and Madsen there. The French duo coming out hot, Jason.
Yeah, they did. The 2 Rift to goes, and they were kind of not gifted, but they're able to eliminate the TSM boys to pick it up. Something I want to transition off of that, though, in the same kind of sense, is we saw Boyer and Crypt. They had 2 RPGs. They had 2 launch pads. They had so much in their inventory. I don't want to be too critical on them, but was that a game they should win in that situation with that kind of inventory? Or do you feel like late game, even the best inventories doesn't really take into account the craziness that happens?
They had the means to retake high ground by, any measure. They had the mobility. They had the RPGs to knock down high ground. They retook it a couple of times. They lost it once or twice. But I think what cost them the game is they retook it a little bit too early, ran out of mats, had to drop down. And after that, it was GG.
That's where I guess Seth and Madsen really chimed in to use their Rift to Ghost to escape. And
yeah,
take it
I mean,
themselves.
it was something that we were talking about yesterday is, the importance of not only holding the high ground towards the end game, but the timing of when you take high ground. And we just saw it in effect there. If you take it at the wrong time, you go a little bit too early, mats becomes an issue, and to hold down that high ground does become a problem. But now look at these duo stand-ins. Oh my word. Let me do the math. 2 points is what separates our first and second place teams. It could not be tighter. Just 63 points separating our top 5 now. We've seen that picked up in one game.
That's honestly, the thing is, look at Aerox and Nikov. To me, that's the big story. Yes, Vinny and Zextra, they've had a rough 2 games, but these 2 players kind of came out of nowhere. Not really in contention. I remember they started off yesterday, and they had 5 points after 2 games, and yet they've been able to make themselves into the top 4 position now. That's fantastic.
Demo and Bizzle actually creeping on the leaderboard. So we've mentioned before they weren't performing, in terms of top 5, right, but they're still consistent, and that's being rewarded.
And Camo and Issa as well, we talked about them. They're really performing well today. You see, they shot up the leaderboards as well. Provoked and Tux kind of slipping down a little bit, but I mean, you can still see how tight every single points gap is between all these teams and their surrounding duos that are around them. So we talked about how things are being changing up and how they're going to continue to change up. Those gaps keep closing. However, one thing I do want to point out is the fact that for all of the bad games, we should say, or unfortunate games that the guys who are on top at the moment, Vinny and Zexro are having, they are still holding down that top spot. And, you have to expect at some point they are going to have a successful game.
I mean, let's be fair to them. Even though they've had a rough couple of games, they've still been able to maintain that kind of position with 2 rough games. I mean, we saw in the solos tournament for the Polish tournament, the solo tournament for the Polish edition, what happened with just 1 bad game can drop you out of contention. But they've been able to do it twice because that really shows the lead and the consistency they've been playing with.
Them having rough games is kind of an understatement. I think the only reason right now that they're still in the top 5 is because they accrued such a massive lead yesterday, and they're kind of leaning back on that. The last 3 games have not been promising in terms of moving up in terms of points, but they definitely need to reevaluate what they're doing.
Can I shout out one more duo real quick?
Very quickly.
Okay, Motor and Eric.
Yes.
First tournament here for Eric Triceps, and they're actually in 25th place, so credit to them. I know they had really rough games. I think the first 3 or 4, they really struggled, but they're making their way up.
They are, and obviously everyone performing incredibly well today. It's set up beautifully. I keep saying it at the end of every single segment here, but it's getting truer and truer as the games get fewer and fewer. We're going to go for another break now. When we get back, though, we've got more action coming your way.
Think she can't get a last-second clutch? Watch this. Think he can't carry his team while streaming in high resolution? All the while recording a once-in-a-lifetime win? Watch this. Think leveling up only happens in-game? Watch this. On Intel Core i7, they'll rise to every challenge. Now it's your turn. Game, record, stream without compromise on Intel Core i7.
Why are you watching me when this could be you? This is so you.
Classic you. And this could be us.
This is all waiting for you! ESL for the players!
What are you doing? I love you. Thank you so much.
Whoa, Jess, what the frickity frick? Whoa!
The whole gifting subs thing, that is magical.